Here's more of the Alice Stewart Show on 96.5 The Voice.
Down on the corner, out in the street, playing a both boys are playing, bringing hit those happy feet. Rooster hits the white clothes, people just gotta smile.
Welcome back to the Alice Stewart Show, 7:14. Excuse me, we're doing a little thing over here. Doing a little radio show.
No horse playing.
Who would have thought numbers would be so exciting? Laurie and Taylor over there in studio. I'm joined with Laurie Lee, Republican consultant and strategist, Taylor Riddle, the Democratic House Caucus director, and everyone who's placed money on these elections and bet this guy's going to win, this is going to win. Evidently, someone over there just won a bet on the voter turnout. So please enlighten the rest of us. You've been crunching numbers.
Now just say it how it is, and don't do your Democratic liberal spin here. Let's work in facts.
I was pointing out the fact that even though there were more Republicans that voted in the Republican gubernatorial primary than the Democratic primary, Ross, if the race for governor would have been today for Ross and Asa, Ross would have won. I mean, he's leading outright against Asa Hutchinson. He had more voters.
You can't say it like that.
It's true.
But you can't.
What's not true about that?
Okay, what's not true is you're not comparing apples and apples, because there were more Republican primary voters than there were Democrat. But Dr. Lynette Bryant didn't hold as much as Curtis Coleman.
So if there would have been more Democratic primaries, do you not think that Ross would have even a larger lead?
Well, yeah, because his opponent was not nearly
so outright.
But if you combined the Republican and the Democrat, then Asa wins.
Well, let's look at. We'll try this on for size. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts here. Hey, looking at the governor's race on the Democratic side, Mike Ross, he won 85% of the vote here. His numbers, 128,900 to Lynette Doc Bryant's 24,000. On the Republican side, Asa Hutchinson won with 128,400 to Curtis Coleman's 47,000. So if you look, Mike Ross and Asa head-to-head there, yes, Ross wins by about 500 more points. But you have to consider who they're running against.
Thank you.
And, Curtis Coleman brought in twice as many votes as Lynette Doc Bryant. So you got to look at
you got to look at. You're not comparing apples and apples.
No, I'm comparing.
If you take all the primary GOP votes and compare them to all the primary Democrat votes, it would stand to reason that all those that voted for either Asa or Curtis would vote for Asa, and it would stand to reason that all those that voted for Mike Ross or Lynette Bryant would vote for Mike Ross. Asa wins.
Well, it actually, if anything, it shows the confidence that Mike Ross's base has within his leadership. I mean, you can't really say the same for Asa. I mean, he's ran 4 times statewide.
73% is a pretty confident win for somebody that ran against him that's been campaigning for 8 years.
Didn't he spend $700,000 to?
Do we want to talk how much money he never ran anything again?
Well, the fact is, here we have in the big races last night in the governor's race heading into November. We'll have Asa Hutchinson going against Mike Ross. In lieutenant governor's race, we had Tim Griffin handily beating his opponents. He had 108,000, Andy Mayberry 34,000, Deborah Hobbs 27,000. In the Attorney General's race, there is a runoff, as we have spoken with the two candidates in the runoff. Leslie Rutledge winning 78,000 of the votes, David Sterling with 64,000. In the Treasurer's race, Dennis Milligan besting Duncan Baird there. And in the Auditor's race, Andrea Lee winning over Ken Yang, 110,000. We just spoke with Bruce Westerman, who won in the 4th Congressional District over Tommy Moll. The other big race, a lot of folks were watching it, and talk about some national money being poured into Arkansas. It will happen now in these congressional races. One specifically in the 2nd Congressional District, French Hill winning handily over his opponents with 29,000 votes to Ann Clemmer with 12,000 and Colonel Reynolds with 11,000. Joining us now on the Royal Overhead Door Hotline, we're joined with French Hill. French, good morning.
Good morning, Alice. How are you?
I'm great. Congratulations on your victory, and how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm ready to start round 2.
And what does that entail? I mean, and clearly this was a a pretty heated primary. You were a clear front runner, given you had quite a bit of money up front, doing well in the polls. So that meant automatically you had that target on your back for quite some time by your opponents. How are you going to go about going towards November? What's the new strategy?
Well, Alice, I think that from traveling the last 6 months and listening to the citizens in the 7 counties of the 2nd District, it's real clear to me people are interested in faster economic growth. They're interested in, sorry about that, beeping in the background. They're interested in faster economic growth, and they're interested in their representative stopping anything public policy-wise that impairs job creation. That's the number one issue I heard about for the past 6 months. And so going into the next round, I'm going to be focused on what can we do to increase higher incomes for our working families and faster economic growth.
Well, and that's one of the things, I mean, you mentioned last night as you spoke, it's certainly about job creation. It's about, we don't need someone with on-the-job training. In your primary, it was messaging, hard work, and the whole effort, a good team effort to get to where you're going. Now moving ahead, you'll be facing Pat Hayes in November. How are you going to contrast what your background and your experience is with Mayor Hayes toward November?
I believe that the voters are looking for somebody that's got a common sense, conservative view to issues, particularly economic issues. And I think my business experience sets me apart from Mayor Hayes. I don't think voters in the 2nd District want a career politician as their next congressman. And
when the final tally was read last night and you won, wondering, did you hear from your challengers? Did you speak with Ann Clemmer and Colonel Reynolds, and what was the conversation like?
Well, we exchanged text messages late last night due to principally because my voicemail, my phone was jammed up. But we had a great exchange. I fully expect our party to be unified going into November. They ran a rigorous and positive campaign that I admired along the way, and so it's on to November, and I appreciate the effort they put into the primary and look forward to having them on the team for November. And one of the things you have mentioned in part of a plan would be to shift some federal responsibilities back to state and local governments. What would that entail? I just believe that when you look at the approach of the federal government, our problems around our country, whether they're economic or social, just cannot be solved by one-size-fits-all solutions from Washington, no matter what we're talking about, what the topic is. And as a result, it costs more and it imposes and intrudes on people's private lives to an extent that is just not in the American tradition. So I believe that the federal government should shift power back to the state and local governments. An example would be just something as simple and straightforward as workforce training. There are many dozens of workforce training programs and dollars spent trying to encourage a better educated, ready workforce around the country. Let's not try to impose those dictates from Washington. Let's just take that kind of approach and block grant whatever federal money is appropriate back to governors and county judges and let them decide what's best for the workforce in their local area instead of a big bureaucratic top-down solution from Washington. And one big issue that has been dominating D.C. is Obamacare, and you have said that you want to repeal Obamacare. I do. I think Obamacare is not working. The president himself has changed the Affordable Care Act some 33 times. It's not working for the majority of American citizens. It's raised health care prices. It's curtailed access to health care for some. And I'm just dissatisfied with the direction of that law. I'd like to see it repealed and replaced with something that actually improves access to health care for those who need it, but also improves affordability and competition in health care for families, and let them have personal choice about how they design the health care that's right for them and the relationship with their doctor. Well, French Hill, we appreciate your time this morning, and congratulations on your victory, and certainly best of luck as you move to November, taking on former North Little Rock Mayor Pat Hayes. French, congratulations. Thanks so much.
Congratulations, French.
All right.
Thanks, Lori.
Appreciate you. That was a big race, very hard fought. But I tell you what, Taylor and Laurie, we're going to see some big money coming into the state, from D.C. and elsewhere, because the Democrats want to win that seat back.
Oh, absolutely. I think the 4th District race and that race will be highly funded, along with the Senate race. The money that was spent in this primary is going to be negligible compared to what's going to happen in the general election.
The outside money that's about to pour in is I don't think we've ever seen anything like, or will have seen anything like it in the state before. And it's actually sort of makes me sick. I don't really like the fact that special interest groups from D.C. have that big of a role on either side.
And that's true. And you know what? It's all going to. Here's the thing: if Arkansans want to control who represents them on both the state and a federal level, then, we got to do better than 20% voter turnout.
Exactly.
I mean, people got to get up and get involved in this. I was in several places yesterday picking up stuff, and I can't tell you the number of people that I saw outside of our little cabal, in public places. Hey, have you voted today? And they're like, well, no, that's November.
Yeah.
No, there's a primary going on right now.
Well,
and so go vote.
And then those that do go vote say that there's no line. Just get in and out.
Yeah.
It's quick. I think it took me maybe 3 minutes to walk through. And
vote. I just walked right in. And seriously, folks, if you have concerns, and I think everybody does, about the economy and education and all these things, you got to go vote. You got to get out there.
And for those that say that voting doesn't matter, which really irks me, I mean, we had a presidential election that came down to 2 counties. A few hundred votes decided who the president of the United States was.
Absolutely.
If voting doesn't count, then people need to be reminded of that.
We were watching, was on Channel 11 last night, and one of the races we were looking at up in North Arkansas, one of the Senate races, and there was some talk back and forth about the private option impact. At the time, the votes were separated by three votes separated. So that tells you right there, from a campaign standpoint, knocking on every door helps, making phone calls helps, but for you that think your votes don't count, it does.
You think about last election cycle, and there were a huge Senate race that lost by 200 votes. That's the size of a big Sunday school class at one of those, mega churches.
There's a state legislative race. Actually, the incumbent that just lost this primary, John Hutchinson, I think squeaked through with 49 votes.
That's right. 49 votes decided that race.
Yeah. Every single vote matters. And we're going to run down a couple of the big races. And coming up after the break, we're going to be joined with Mike Ross, the Democratic nominee for governor, as well as Tim Griffin, the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor, and Asa Hutchinson, Republican nominee for governor. And it'll be big money being poured into the state, but full speed ahead. We're trying to get through the primary to narrow the field, and now it's full speed ahead. As we have said, in terms of the big races last night, French Hill winning in the 2nd Congressional District, Bruce Westerman in the 4th CD, Mike Ross winning the Democratic primary for governor, Asa Hutchinson, Republican primary for governor, Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin on the Republican side. Runoff in the Attorney General's race, Leslie Rutledge and David Sterling. For Treasurer, Dennis Milligan besting Duncan Baird. In Auditor's race, Andrea Lee winning over Ken Yang. And some of these judicial races got a lot of attention given some last-minute negative campaigning. The Arkansas Supreme Court Associate Justice Position 2, Robin Wynn over Tim Cullen. And in the 6th Judicial Circuit Division 13, Mike Reif over Ernest Sanders. So keeping a close eye on some of these races. And clearly a runoff out in Saline County with Sheriff Pennington and all that mess going on out there. It had about 8 folks running in that race, so be a runoff in the Saline County Sheriff. High voter turnout there in that area, given to all the mess going on with Sheriff Pennington. So we're going to continue the conversation with those that are bleary-eyed and ready to move forward to November coming up in the second hour of the show. But make sure, another key factor with this election day was voter ID seemed to go pretty clear. No real issues except for Asa Hutchinson. We may ask him about that.
Yeah,
hey, he proved the system works.
He proved that they asked, and he didn't do the "you don't know who I am," which is good
to his credit.
The voter ID worked. No major hitches throughout early voting or on Election Day. So that was good. A success story for that. All right, we're going to take a break and come back with Tim Griffin, Mike Ross, and Asa Hutchinson. This segment of the Alice Stewart Show brought to you by the Countertop Store at 9817 Maumelle Boulevard. Give them a call at 888-510-4773. Talk to one of their design consultants. Let them show you how your dreams can come true. We'll be back.